Sam,
Hi.
thank you for joining us this afternoon, and thank you for sharing with you what you're about to share. Um, I'll begin with probably the most pivotal question, or perhaps not, pertaining to your artwork, and that is, what was the pivotal moment or that experience anywhere in your life, whether when you were a child, adult, whatever it was, whenever it was, however it was, that ignited the passion that you have to create the work, the art that you do?
That is such a good question because the pivotal moment, I've always been artistic. I've always been the one in school who was the most artistic and blah, blah, blah. But when I came to New York City, I met the first night I was here at a gay bar, Truman Capote. And I knew who he was, of course, because Truman Capote. But he tapped on my shoulder and said, "Hi, I've never seen you here before. Can I buy you a drink?" And I said, "Sure." So he bought me a drink, and then he introduced me to this man called Thomas Tryon. And I can use his name because Tom is no longer with us. But anyway, so I met Tom, and he said, "What are you doing this evening?" And I said, "I just got to the city. I'm staying at a YMCA." And he said, "Well, good." He said, "Let's have dinner." So we had dinner. And in the process of having dinner, he told me he lived actually near where I was living. I was in a Y on the west side, and he was on Central Park West. And he said, "I need someone who can help me as just a person who I can ask, to do errands for, whatever, and I'll pay you $200 a week. Would you be interested?" And I thought, great, because I didn't have a job, and the little money that I had saved, I knew I would go through soon. So I said, absolutely great. So I knew he was an actor, but I didn't know he was that famous. I didn't know what he had started, but he started a television series called The Cardinal, or maybe it was just a film, whatever. It's called The Cardinal. And then, and we talked some more, and then he introduced me to Rock Hudson. Well, of course I knew Rock Hudson. But what both of them liked about me was that I didn't go crazy. I didn't go like, "Oh my God, you're Rock Hudson. Oh my God, you're," and then ask him a million questions about films and all this stuff that celebrities do not like. And I didn't do it. So they liked me, and I worked actually for both of them the first 2 years I was in the city. And what that gave me, I think, was just a foundation that I can work for anyone. If I can work for those two, I can work for anyone. And it was, and the only reason I mention it is because of that experience with them, I was able to, as far as I'm concerned, have self-confidence in myself that I didn't have when I came here. And it gave me that self-confidence to just pursue whatever I wanted, whether it worked out or not. I thought to myself, I'm worth it, or I'll give it a shot and see what happens. It's no big deal. And that's it.
That's quite something, and you say no big deal, but to many of us that is a big deal.
Mm.
Well, next question: how would you define success as an artist, and what drives you to keep creating when you have success, when you don't have success, when you have those failures? How do you keep it going?
Well, that's a really good question. I think success does not mean necessarily how much art have you sold, how many people have mentioned your name in public circles or on the internet or on television, or how many interviews have you had with people on television, all that type of stuff. I think if you have a good publicist, maybe you can go for those things. But publicists are not cheap, they're expensive. And most artists that I know have other jobs. So they would have to save and then go the proper route of trying to get some type of publicity or recognition, or have people mention their names or get to know them or know who they are. With me, it was just a question of being in the right place at the right time. I came to New York 100 years ago. I am 73. I know I don't look it, but I'm 73. And when I came here, art was just something that a few people were doing, and in the sense that they were this, like Andy Warhol, very successful. And I do pop art like him. He was my mentor to a large extent. And who else? I can't even think of the other names now, but you know what I mean. And they were all people that made it from the street, basically, you know, doing stuff and people recognizing it, and then finally doing an art show, and then finally getting people to buy their art, getting a name out there. But it was a process. Very few people were from a wealthy family, had a name already, or maybe the son of a celebrity, very, very few. And then they do art, and yeah, sure, they're gonna get their name out there. But even at that time, their name is not going to really mean anything if their art isn't good. So my art was selling, people liked it. And I think that had a lot to, and plus I enjoyed painting. I love painting. I mean, it's me. And to be a good artist, I think you have to enjoy what you're doing. So that's been my experience. Hope that answered your question.
That really answered my question. And which leads on to the next question. Theme, message. What is it you aim to convey through your work when it comes to theme, when it comes to message, when it comes to yesterday, today, tomorrow, when you're no longer here? What would you like and what do you want?
Well, I think pretty much everything has been done to a certain extent as far as themes or whatever. But if anything, my theme would be, if you're interested in pursuing art, don't give up. Don't listen to people that are going to say, oh, I don't think your art's that good. I mean, it's okay, but I don't think it's that good. Or, you know, if you really want to do art and you really want to sell your art, you're in Minnesota right now, do what everyone does. Do landscapes, do a lake, do woods around the lake, and I guarantee you it's going to sell. And if you say, but I'm not really into that, that's not my thing. My thing is modern, pop art, whatever. And they say, oh no, but that's not going to sell. People around here are not going to buy that. Then you know what? Move. My question is move. Go to a place where people are a little bit more sophisticated, I guess is the only word, because they don't want to see landscapes anymore. They want to see other things. And that's why a bigger city, doesn't have to be New York, but a bigger city has more artists that are more interested in just doing their own thing and not listening to other people. So my advice is definitely do it. Don't listen to anyone, just do it.
Thank you, Sam. Just do it. So then this leads us into the next question of just doing it. Could you walk us through the process from conception to execution of what it means for you to just do it?
That's an interesting question too. I would say that when I have a thought in mind of doing something, I'll start it. And it may be something that has a lot of details in it. It may be, for instance, something I've never done before. Let's say it's painting, I'm just trying to think of something in general. Maybe painting a car that is next to a pool of water and you can see the reflection of the car in the swimming pool, you know, and that's something that is not going to be easy to do because you don't want to make it look like it's a car in the pool. You want to make it look like it's a reflection. So it's all done in you know, making the lighting look good and then doing it in the proper way. So I'd say that's something that it's difficult to do, and you have to, with practice, do it. My experience has been, if there's something that I want to show, usually it's something that to get there, it's not like one shot and boom, I'm there. I have to do it again and again and again, but I don't mind doing that because then I'll end up with what I want. So it's like that saying, practice makes perfect. It's really true. Just do it and do it, but listen to yourself. Don't listen to other people that will say, oh, well, I think you've done enough. I don't think you need to do any more. If you think you need to do more in that painting, do it.
So from that to this, which may even impact myself. And I'm fascinated to find out how this would work for you. What do you do to overcome, if you have them, any creative blocks or periods of, as you say, from the just do it moment, periods of self-doubt, if you have periods of self-doubt, as we all do as artists, as people, every day we come across these roadblocks. What do you do when it comes to things that you really want, you envision, but you just can't get there?
Well, I'll tell you, if you're black and you're living in a all-white society, you don't let things get in your way and stop you. You just don't. And what is it that makes you kind of pursue past those things where you don't have doubts or whatever? What is it? It's the fact that you want to be as good as you can be. You want to move through all the obstacles that you're probably going to get. And then before you know it, you've actually achieved what you've wanted to achieve by doing that. So you're not going to let things get in your way and stop you. And it's the same with when you're doing art, if you're gay, in my opinion. Gay people now are perceived and liked, let's say, a lot more now, especially the younger people that are experiencing it, than people, you know, back in the 1970s when I was in my 20s. Because back then, it was just not something that people expected you to admit. You know, you had to be in the closet, especially as an artist. And of course, Andy Warhol and those that were famous could say it. But if you, in general, just said, oh, by the way, I'm gay, whatever, people might tell you at that time, you know what, we really like your art. We have an art gallery, we're gonna do a show, but just so you don't turn anyone off that's going to be here, if someone says to you, I've never seen you before, are you married? Just say no. And if you want to, you could say, but I do have a girlfriend. But I would keep it straight. Don't let anyone know that you're gay, because you might turn someone off by that who would be otherwise interested in your paintings. And that's how it used to be. Now it's not. Of course, did that ever stop me? No, it didn't. I just went ahead and did it anyway. I didn't really care what they thought. I mean, I've always been that way. That's me.
You almost answered this question with everything you said then. And it's more of a, what role does your personal background or upbringing play shaping your artistic style? And with everything you've just expressed, I'm fascinated to know what this would be.
Well, I'll tell you, I'm from I'm from Duluth, Minnesota, and the main industry in that city was a railroad. And my father was senior vice president of that railroad, so a lot of people knew who we were. And because of that, because they all worked for the railroad, so because of that, my father was so self-conscious with me. And I didn't come out until I was 25 in New York. I didn't come out in Duluth, Minnesota, you know, when I was growing up, or even in college. I never came out. I didn't even know about the fact that I was gay. I found myself attracted to guys, but I had never had any sex or anything with a guy. I never even thought about, you know, sex with the guy. I just never did. Didn't know, you know, I learned all that in New York, but not where I was from. So as a result of that, I had no issues with it really, but I have to say that you had to be real careful, because if someone did find out that you were gay, if they found out, or even suspected it, if you were effeminate or anything like that, you'd be beat up. I mean, with no question about it, you would be beat up. Not necessarily killed, but you would be beat up. And would the police do anything about it? No. They stayed out of those situations. And my father told me that too. He said, move to New York. Move, because in this city, and he told me, when you graduate from college, move. Because in this city, he said, you will be beat up eventually. You will be. And you know the police won't do anything about it. So I would suggest move. And I said, Dad, do you think there's something, because I haven't come out or anything. I mean, I don't, you know, I do like men to look at, but I haven't decided yet if I'm, you know, a queer or not, or homosexual. They didn't use the word gay. And he said, I know for you, you are. So he said, and I love my father, and I took his suggestions, and so I moved. Did he give me money to move? Yes, but I moved and came to New York, and that was it. Best thing I ever did.
So over time, how has your artwork evolved with the influences, and how have you shifted through getting older, being in New York, the time frames that shifted, the political atmosphere, as you were just saying right then, you know, the 70s, being gay, to the 80s, the 90s, and now, where it's almost normal. It's almost, hey, if you're not, what's wrong? You know, everyone's transitioning through all kinds of things. So how has your work evolved with this?
Well, it was an evolution, so to speak. It evolved from basically, I started off in fashion when I came to New York. And I was with someone who had the money, I didn't. And I designed women's intimate apparel, which would be long gowns that they could put on when they went to sleep, or what they called, not house coats, I forgot the other, loungewear. And loungewear basically consisted of two-piece outfits or a long shirt that they could wear on the street if they chose to. Aside from the house, they could take it outside and wear it outside. Anyway, I did that for 6 years with someone. And then I decided to get out of it because it just wasn't what I wanted. I didn't want to do fashion anymore, so I got out of that. And then I started a little t-shirt store in the city. And on the t-shirts at the time, you had to have something where people would say, oh, you're the guy that does the whatever. So I decided to do an airplane graphic. So I did a very simple little airplane, very basic looking. If people looked at it, they couldn't like say, oh, that's definitely a B-51 or a B-52, whatever. It was just a very basic looking plane. And I took that plane, and my t-shirt started to sell right away with it. People loved it. Just a single plane on the front of it in black and a white shirt. And then I did it in different colorations. And then before you know it, I thought, you know, I've got to, that's my thing now, is this airplane. So let's see how many designs I can do made up of this airplane. I did a peace symbol, a flag, I did a face, I did whatever I wanted to do. And I came out with not 100 designs, but quite a few. And I became the airplane person, which is what I guess I wanted to be. I wanted to be something where I could be something from my art or whatever I did. So anyway, it started in fashion, then turned to art. And what I ended up doing in art, because I liked pop art, was to include it in the art somewhere. There'd be an airplane. It could even be a tag on my name that I signed, you know, Sam Wagner on the bottom of the painting. There'd be an airplane next to it. But I had to do something, and that became my signature. People would say, oh, you're the airplane guy. So I ended up having that tag, I guess, that I wanted, and that was that.
With every answer you're giving me, I just want to delve deeper into that and stay with that for a long time. But I will go on. I will ask another question. So if I was a new artist or an aspiring artist, whether I be 20 years old, 10 years old, 40 years old, and I came to you and I needed the advice on how do I deliver or how do I find my authentic voice, what would you say?
I mean, there's probably some people that know what they want to do, what their authentic voice is going to be, because you have to create it. You have to create that authentic voice. It's not something that just boom happens. I mean, it can happen that way too. By doing enough art, you can all of a sudden become this kind of an artist, noted for whatever it is that you're doing. But in general, I think you have to think about that and say, okay, what do I want to have as my signature, as my authentic voice, whatever you want to call it. And then you have to just think about it, pursue it, make sure no one else is doing it. Or if they are, make sure you're doing it in a totally different way, because the last thing you want is for someone to say, oh, you're copying blah, blah, blah. Especially when you bring your art to a gallery and someone says that, they look down on you. So make sure whatever it is that you want as your thing, that it's going to be something that is a little different from anyone else's. It's doing the same thing. And that's it.
That leads on to this one. And What do you hope your legacy as an artist will be?
I don't even think about that, to be honest. Can I be honest about this? I will. I'll tell you anyway. It doesn't really matter. I had an art studio where I sold my art for 28 years. And my art sold well, and I liked it, and I was paying, my rent on time and blah, blah, blah. But with the last recession we had, which affected me big time, it was the one that we had in December here, and up until May, there was no business. No one was coming to my art studio because of the recession. People were too afraid of getting, because of the pandemic rather, people were too afraid of possibly catching something. And I totally understand that. But I didn't have it, and I would put on the internet too. By the way, I do not have any diseases, so if you came to see my art, don't worry about that. You're not going to. But they were still afraid, so I didn't sell. I sold a few pieces, but not enough to pay my rent. Got behind in my rent for 6 months. And I lost my studio, which I can totally understand. That's just what a landlord has to do. And I've known my landlord for a long time. So how did that affect me? Because I'm going through it right now. To be honest, it's part of life. Does it make me depressed? No, it doesn't make me depressed. In fact, if anything, it's like, okay, I'm in a new situation now where I don't have anything. How can I take that and make that into a positive thing for me so that I can still get into art, pursue art, and not let that stand in my way? And that's what I'm doing now. I'm doing this interview here, which is great because I enjoy this. And if by doing this, it's going to help one person, then all the years I've been doing art is worth it. And that's how I look at it.
Sam, you've shared so much already with us. Truths, vision, art, who you are, your life, all the things. But if you could share one truth with the world through your art, what would it be?
Wow, that's a really major question. What would it be that I would share if it's one thing? I may have kind of mentioned this before, but I would say, don't ever let anyone stop you from doing your art. If it's an art gallery, let's say you go to an art gallery, you show them a little portfolio of your stuff, and the person who you see at the desk or whatever the art gallery says, no, I mean, this really isn't us. It's just not, no, but no. And what's best is to say thank you, because what they're doing is being honest, and they're saying it's not right for them. Doesn't mean it's not right for anyone else. It doesn't mean it's not good. It doesn't, that is not even a negative thing that they're saying. It's just an open statement that's neither positive or negative, and basically saying that you don't have the art that we're looking for is what it really comes down to. So that's fine, because that's just how it is in the industry. Not everyone, Andy Warhol, I'm sure, when he first started out, a lot of people looked at his art and said, are you crazy? We don't like this art, but one person did, and boom, look at him now, or, whatever. So I would say it's just, the most important thing is to not let anything, if you really, really and truly want to be an artist, if you really and truly want to pursue it, don't let anyone or anything get in your way by what they may say or do, or money. Maybe you've got no money at the time, fine. Save up and then get it. Maybe you have just lost your apartment, and maybe you're homeless now, fine. When you get your act back together again, continue your art. So I would just say, don't ever give up on doing whatever it is that you want to do in life. Pursue it. Don't let anyone ever stop you or get in your way, because afterwards, trust me, you're going to totally regret it. And that's it.
Thank you so much, Sam. This has been a real, it's exactly what I needed. And I'm sure if it's exactly what I needed, whoever watches this, whoever sees this, they need it too, because we all do go through some hard times, some terrible times, traumatic times, and I probably need a deep personal question from myself here. You lose your studio, you lose your space to be able to create your artwork. You see it not as something to be depressed by, but you see it as a challenge. You see it as, how do I make the best of this? You're on the subway, you're in the street, you're walking, whatever you're at, how do you continue? I mean, how do you really reach inside yourself, look around, and you see all the people doing all this stuff, and people less off, greatly less off, people with multitudes more, and then everyone in between. How do you continue to reach in and then create from what you feel, what you see, what you experience?
That's a great question, and I have an answer for it for me. This is just for me. When I was in my 30s in New York, of course, people that, and I was working in fashion at the time, but people that I knew were getting AIDS. AIDS was the epidemic at that time. It had never been around before. No one, people young weren't dying of anything before. There was never I think the last pandemic was, 200 years ago or whatever, but this was a pandemic, something brand new. Everyone was in shock, and of course they called AIDS the gay disease in the beginning because it was the gay people that were getting it and spreading it. I didn't get it, but the people I knew that did get it, and I knew them so well, there's just nothing you could do. And at that time in the 80s, people got it and died within a month of getting it. It wasn't like now, of course, they have medications you can take and you can live forever. But back then, it was a month that you were given. So these people that I knew that were friends, I'd go out to dinner with them. I'd do whatever I could with them, and I'd see them waste and waste and waste until one day they looked at me and they said, Sam, I think this is going to be it. I don't think I'm going to make it through tomorrow. But you want to know something? I had a ball in life. I'm sorry that's this disease. I hope it's not bothering you, but I just enjoyed life, and I'm glad I had the life I had. Now, because of that, one person who told me that and died the next day, it made me realize that no matter what in life I go through, no matter what relationship ends the way I don't want it to end, no matter what business I had that I've lost and don't have anymore, no matter what career, what people I meet, whatever it is, no matter what, I don't have any diseases. I am at 73, I am healthy, as healthy as I can be. I get tested all the time. I had a physical a week ago, and they said, God, you're in great health. There's nothing wrong with you. Go to a gym, whatever. But the reason that I do that is because I just enjoy it. But the reason that, like right now, I don't have a business anywhere. I'm staying in a hotel that is for homeless people. And people have said, you're homeless now. I mean, doesn't that bother you? And it's like, no. And why? Because I'm alive. I don't have any diseases. I know people that got AIDS and were so grateful to be alive until they were like 30. And then they died. And I am getting emotional now, but I can't be depressed about anything. I don't have a disease that's killing me. I'm not going to die right now. I may get hit by a car, but I'm not going to die of a disease. And these people were so brave until they had to go, until they went. And so as a result of that, I can't complain ever about anything. I am just grateful for today. And that's what keeps me grateful, I guess. And that's it.
That's impactful. On that, I need a minute, I need a second, I need a bit of time, but I want to get straight into this next bit before I lose my thoughts. The impact on that, did you notice any correlation, or was there a mental or a spiritual impact on you when the pandemic happened? And you said that, you know, people suddenly couldn't come to your studio, they couldn't buy your artwork. You had to tell everybody, look, I don't have COVID, I don't have this disease, you're free to come in, it's all okay. Because I remember the AIDS epidemic through a television commercial of, you know, a bowling ball going down this bowling alley and people dying and all these things, and the scares that did happen. I remember it as a kid thinking, AIDS, it's all we heard about. And then to be here in New York and have the COVID virus, suddenly we're not allowed to be together. We're not allowed to touch each other. We're not allowed to see. It was surreal. Did that have an impact on you emotionally or through your work? The same as the 70s, 80s it was it happened. Was there a correlation or anything that reminded you of that?
Well, I'll tell you, I think when you have something that you've worked really, really hard for, let's say art in general, and when you know that you didn't do anything to stop people from buying your art. In other words, you didn't insult people or post things on the internet that would offend people for whatever reason, and you absolutely did nothing. And the only reason why people were not coming and buying your art in the last 6 or 7 months was because of a pandemic, which you have nothing to do with at all. Nothing. That's something that just happened, and unfortunately, you happen to be in the middle of it. I mean, if I was, in Minnesota, where I'm from, they didn't really have a situation there with the pandemic, and if they did, it would be just very, very, very minute and minor in the whole bit. But here in New York, of course, it doesn't work like that, and it was, not everyone got it, of course, but people did get it, and people did die from it. The latest one in December, January, February, March, April, May. So 6 months, people were dying, and now that's over supposedly. And but for me anyway, it cost me, my business and a place to stay, because I was staying in my business, which is very illegal. But anyway, I did it. But the whole thing is that did it depress me? I don't know, depression? No, because it made me feel like, well, I didn't want that to happen, but you know what, it did happen, and I can understand why it happened. So what am I going to do? So I got my butt over to a friend's place who was supposed to, for at least a month or so, let me stay at his place. And then I had, because I get Social Security because of my age, 73, I could then use that and get, a room somewhere or whatever, and be able to afford that. But that didn't, what happened is the person who I was supposed to stay with on the day I left my studio gave me a call and said, "Oh, I'm so sorry, but my brother from Ohio just showed up. So you can't stay here now. I'm just so sorry." Click. And I thought, what am I going to do? So I did, it just dawned on me. I don't know what else to do except to just do what everyone does when they're homeless. So I called a government agency and I said, "What do I do?" And they said, "Go to this place. They'll tell you what to do." So I went to this place on East 30th Street, and it deals with people that are homeless, whatever. It's not a shelter, but it's a place that will refer you to it. So now I'm staying in a shelter in Brooklyn. I don't even know Brooklyn, but I'm staying in a place in Brooklyn, and it's clean, which is all I want, and they give you 3 meals a day, and I'm fine, and I am fine. So whatever I want to do in the future, It'll give me time anyway to save some money, and then I can pursue that. But I'm not depressed about my situation. I'm not. It's a real life situation that I had no control over at all. You know, I have no control over a disease. And the only thing, and because I lost everything, I'll get it back eventually, you know? And so, but that doesn't depress me. Doesn't make me feel like I did something wrong, because I didn't. I was just caught in a situation, and that's all there is to it.
You will get it back. I can see that. I really can.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying it because I'm talking to you, but I can see it. Through this situation, are you continually creating? Are you working on your art, whether it be through pen, paper, paint?
Right now, no, I'm not. It's only been a couple of weeks now that I've been in this situation, and what is interesting, I'm going to say it anyway. My landlord, I left everything in my place for him, and I told him, I said, it's yours. Do with it what you want, my art. Friends of mine said, well, why didn't you try to sell it? I did try to sell it. It didn't sell. And someone else said, why don't you put it in a storage place where at least you could have it there, and then eventually sell it, because I didn't have the money to put it in a storage place. And I didn't want to ask my friends. I'm that way. I'm just that way. I don't ask people for money. I just don't. So I didn't. And I thought, you know, whatever happens, it's going to happen, and I can always make art again in the future. And so I guess what I'm trying to say is that things may not work out the way I want them to work out, but the most important thing is that I get a chance, being alive, to just do what I want to do every day. I may not be able to do art every day, but at least I want to have a place right now that's going to just be nice, that I can sleep in, and I have that. I want to be able to have 3 meals a day, or even 2 meals, even 1 meal a day, that I can't afford right now to pay for, and I get that. And everything else is just secondary as far as I'm concerned. And I know that I'll eventually get, if I really work hard, anything I want. And I say anything too, I really do believe in that. I know from my past life, whatever, I had an incredible life. You know, I lived in the Hamptons for a while. I had private planes that I flew in for a while. They weren't mine. None of this is mine. But I was fortunate enough to be with people that had that, and that liked me, and that we were friends. And I didn't go after them as friends because of that. It just happened. And they knew that too. So I've had a great life. And what I'm going through now, I'm enjoying too. Because again, people I know that are dead now, and they can't enjoy life the way I can. So I keep it that simple.
Thank you, Sam. Really, thank you. I'm so glad I did this. You're an absolute inspiration. Really. Wow. I wish that every one of us could have 60, maybe 70% of what you've got. Just to, because most of us don't. Most of us have like 10%, 20%. Everything's miserable, everything's hard, but here you are, and wow, man, you've just got such spirit, heart. Nothing's dead inside you. Everything's alive, everything's thriving, and everything's on the rise. It hasn't been crushed. It's remarkable.
Well, thank you. I'm enjoying this interview so much. So you've made my day for sure by doing this. So thank you very much.
You've made my week, month, maybe my year. Truly, I was a bit down on myself yesterday and the day before. I'm going, oh, miserable me, and then you walk in. So, wow. Thank you.
Thank you.
Very much.
Okay.